everyone, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to do my second half of March wrap-up. So if you haven't seen one of these videos, I always split the month into two parts, just because, especially lately, I have been on a tear with reading, and so waiting until the end of the month is really overwhelming, and I don't want these videos to be super long, and especially this month, because it is middle grade March. So you guys know I have a daughter that I always read quite a bit with anyway, but because it's middle grade March, and because we have been so sick the past 8 weeks, like nothing big. If you've missed things, we've had strep, we've had the stomach bug, we've had an unexplained fever. Like we just had a lot of like sickness time, and so which means waiting room reading time, which means couch time, which means all these things. So we've had a lot of reading time, and we've been doing a lot. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently this month, this time, I guess. I'm going to go through the stats as I always do, and then I'm going to separate things into my middle grade reading, and then my adult reading. So if you only want to see one or the other, you can skip and just watch what you want to watch, because I typically do these in the order that I read them, but I don't want to make you sit through something you don't care about if you don't care. So let's just get into the stats, and then you'll see how it goes. So in the second half of March, from the 16th to the 31st, I read 20 books. I read 4,213 pages, which is 263 pages per day. But the average page length of my books this month, section of the month, was 211 pages. So there's a lot of middle grade thrown in there, and that means I averaged 1.25 books a day, which is just crazy. Like that's a lot, but I mean there are a lot of middle grades that are somewhere in the 100 to 200 range. So I read 11 chapter books, which is what I'm calling the books that I read with my daughter. They're kids chapter books, and then 9 novels. So 9 adult, 11 middle grade. 3 were from my shelf and 17 were from somewhere else. You guys, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. My goal at the beginning of the year was to read 50% off my shelf. And so this month, like as you see, I read 11 middle grade, and my middle grade collection, I've said it before, is not extensive just because it's most of the books that I remember from being a kid that I want to own. But otherwise I'm fine with like going to explore the library with my daughter and letting her pick whatever for middle grade. But of the 9 that I read for like myself, only 3 of those came off my shelf. So even without the middle grade, I'm not doing great on that stat. Let's see. I read 11 from the library. So all the chapter books we read were from the library. I read 7 from Libby, 1 from my shelf, and 1 from Hoopla. So that is where I primarily use them. So like I said, 3 were off my shelf, but I accessed a digital copy or whatever for 2 of them. So that's how I get that. 12 of the books I read were physical, 8 were audio. So I read all 11 chapter books physically and 1 book for myself physically, and then the other 8 were audio. So if you guys want to know like how I get any reading done, audio is how. I read no new release and 20 backlist. And part of that too is because this month it's middle grade March, and it's also the backlist readathon. I participated in that. So there is both of those things going, that I'm not surprised I didn't really read any new releases. And I also am counting new releases only as 2023 releases, which now that we're like getting into the year, I feel good about. But I don't know, like what's a new release? What's backlist? Is it the past 12 months? Is it the last calendar year? I don't know. It's really gray. So no new releases though. As far as genre goes, I read 6 sci-fi fantasy, which are all chapter books. I read 3 nature, which is what I call any chapter book that has a animal as the main character. 3 nonfiction, 2 mystery thrillers, 2 women's fiction, 2 contemporary, 1 historical, and 1 Christian fiction. So again, as I always do, all over the board. So let's get into the star ratings, you guys. I had 2 DNFs this month, and I feel like I need to give myself a pat on the back for that, because if you guys have been around the channel for a while, I had 4 DNFs total last year, and it's just not something I like to do because I'm a completionist. I have FOMO, like all the things, so I don't like to DNF, but I did twice this month. So you'll see what those books were. They were both books of mine. My daughter is also like a completionist, or my daughters, they both are into reading now. And so we never quit a book, and most of the time our tastes align, but sometimes they don't. And so you'll see we read quite a few books that I don't really care for that she did. So yeah, we've never DNF'd a kid's book yet. We have DNF series, but anyway, so I had 2 DNFs, 6 3-stars, 8 3.5 stars, 5 4 stars, and 1 5-star. So the average rating is 3.55. It is always, my average rating, I feel like, is always 3.5-ish. And so I'm not surprised. That's what it is. That means it was good. I'd recommend it. Not the best thing ever. Slightly above average, you know. So let's get into the books. So the first group of books I'm going to talk about is the middle grade books. So the first one is the Alien Next Door series by A.I. Newton. So we've been reading this series for a little while. There's currently 9 books out. I think the 10th one comes out this summer, maybe. And we really like them. The number 8 we read is A New Planet. So I'm not going to say a whole lot about them just because, I mean, it's spoilers, I guess. But like, they go to a new planet. We'll just say that. And then I gave that one a 3-star. And then number 9 is The Marvelous Museum. And this is a museum because the premise of the series is that there's this little boy named Zeke. He's the new kid at school, and he comes and he's an alien from a different planet. And his family is here to study humans and study Earthlings. And so somebody kind of finds out that he's an alien, and the series goes on. Well, in this one, his parents have contributed their Earth research to this museum of all the different planets throughout. So they go to this museum and see the exhibit, see all about all these different planets. It was fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. Another series that we are reading is The Adventures of Sophie Mouse by Poppy Green. And this series is a young middle grade, I would say. There's pictures, I think, on every page. And you could read them in half an hour, reading them out loud. Well, maybe not quite that quick, but they're quick, they're easy, they're really sweet books. It's about Sophie, who's a mouse, and her best friend Hattie, who's a frog, and Owen, who's a snake. And so we read number 4, which is Looking for Winston. And this was cute. Winston's her little brother, Sophie the mouse's little brother. And he just wants to tag along. He wants to help. And she brushes him off, and then finds out like she needs him. And he gets lost and she panics. And like, I loved reading that story with my girls because my older 2 girls are just over 2 years apart. And there's a lot of, my 5-year-old is wanting to do her own thing a lot of times and leave my almost 3-year-old out. And so there's a lot, but they're best friends and worst enemies, as all sisters and siblings are. So it was a good talking point for us. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next was the Maple Festival, which is number 5. And her mom owns a bakery, which I love. And this one was all about the bakery, fall vibes. There's a Maple Festival, and her mom makes all these maple goodies. And we ended up making apple maple muffins because they made apple maple muffins, and so we made apple maple muffins, and that's like, say that 5 times fast, and it was really fun. But I love the fall vibes. It was really fun. Sophie is an artist, and her art kind of saved the day, so 4 stars on that. And then the number 6 that we read is Winter's No Time for Sleep, and this one I gave 5 stars. It was so cute. It was about the 3 friends are out having a snow day, and like the snow day vibes, the winter vibes, they were on point. Like that's one thing about this series. Like with the Maple Festival, it was really good fall vibes, and now this winter one is really good winter vibes. And they run into a hedgehog, and we learned about hedgehogs and that they are both nocturnal and they hibernate, which I didn't know. And but this little girl hedgehog wants to come out and play, so they do all these snow games and stuff, and then they try to put her to sleep, and it's so sweet. It was so sweet. So those are the Sophie Mouse books that we read. Then we started Isle of the Misfits, and the first one is called First Class by Jamie May. And this is about a gargoyle who is on top of a castle or whatever. He's defending the castle, and he's just like ornery. He's up to no good. He wants to play, so he throws snowballs at the people below, and he tries to wander off, and he gets like whisked into this Isle of Misfits. And so it's all these different creatures and things that don't belong, like they don't just fit in with their job. And so there's a lot of things that aren't really explained. Like they go and have like it's almost like a Tough Mudder kind of competition, like obstacle course race. And they have to work in like teams, and you don't really understand like the school. They don't tell you that much. And like the different creatures, they don't really explain what they are. There are pictures throughout, so you kind of see, but like, I don't know. I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. We'll see if we continue with that, but I'm kind of hoping not. Next is Mighty Meg and the Melting Menace, and this is book number 2 in the Mighty Meg series by Sammy Griffin, I think. And I gave this one 3 stars too. Mighty Meg is not my favorite. The artwork is all blue, and it's just like, it's about Mighty Meg. She's a superhero. And if you're going to read about superheroes, I much prefer Mia Mayhem books. And something about the writing style is just kind of clunky, and I just don't really care for it. There are, again, unexplained things that we read book 1 a while ago, but a couple times I was like, wait, what? Like, I don't remember that detail, or like, how is that happening, or whatever. And like with middle grade books, it seems like, especially these younger middle grade books, there's almost always a good period of explanation of like, this is her powers, this is why she got it. Like the first chapter or whatever is normally a little like recap, and that this didn't have it. And I was a little bit confused as a 33-year-old, so I don't know. Well, not great. Again, another series that I kind of hope we don't continue. So, one thing about all these books that I'm talking about, well, a lot of these books, is it's from Little Bee Publishing, and Little Bee Books, I think is what it is. And they're great. And at the end of every book, there's like all the pictures of the different series that they're currently publishing. So we have gone through, I think, all of them at this point. So that's what a lot of these are. So the next one is Ella and Owen in the Cave of Doom. And this one was cute. It's about Ella and Owen. And it's the first in the series by Jade Kent, I think, and Jaden, I don't know. You'll see a picture, and I'll list it down below in the description. Jade or Jaden Kent. And so it's the first in the series about Ella and Owen, who are 2 dragon siblings. And Owen has a cold in this one. And he's a dragon, so when he sneezes fire. And it's causing all sorts of issues. And so his sister is like, hey, let's go to this healer. And it's in the Cave of Caves, she says. Even though she knows it's in the Cave of Doom, which sounds daunting, but she doesn't care. She's brave. She doesn't care at all. Owen is a lot more skittish, a lot more scared about things. And so they go, and she kind of gets him lost. She's one of those like jump first, look later kind of kids, and he is not. And so they figure it out, and the healer is not what they expected, and it's really fun. I really did like it and hope to continue the series. 3.5 stars on that. Next is The Big Secret, which is Tales of Sasha, book 1 by Alexa Pearl. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. Sasha is a horse, she thinks, at the beginning of the book. But she's got this white patch on her back, and it gets itchy, and it just makes her want to run and jump and do all the ornery little things. And it's so cute. And she finds out she's a unicorn. You'll see in the book. Sorry if I spoiled it for you, but it's so fun. It's so fun. And I'm excited to read the rest of that series too. Then we read, I gave that 3.5. I don't think I said. Then we read Battle of the Bands, which is the Major Eights #1. And this is by Melody Reed. And I gave it 4 stars. So this is about 4 girls who I think are 8. I know they're 8 years old because they have a band, and they call themselves the Major Eights because they're 8 years old. And they are entering a Battle of the Bands competition, and they want to do it to like justify themselves because they use like a hairbrush or something as their microphone. Like they want, the prize is like $1,000 or something crazy, and they want to do that to say like, hey, we're a real band. We're here. We're real, we're going to upgrade ourselves, whatever. So they like have this battle kind of between themselves of like, do we do a popular song, like a pop song on the radio, or do we do some of these silly songs that we wrote ourselves? And do we kind of sell out or be authentic? There's that conversation. And I just love the like audacity and the boldness of them. Audacity is not the right word, but like the boldness and the bravery to go put themselves out there and be authentic. I really loved it. 4 stars on that one. Then the last middle grade that I read was Frankie Sparks and the Talent Show Trick. And this is Frankie Sparks number 2. It is Megan Fraser Blakemore that writes this series. And this is another series I don't love. It's 3 stars. This one's definitely wordier. It's not as quick a read. And Frankie Sparks is a 3rd grade inventor, and she's all about inventing different things, which I like that part of it. But again, something about the writing style is just a little clunky to me. And this one is about her school's having a talent show, and she wants to participate with her magic. And so she does this like magic routine or whatever, and she has her friend Maya be her assistant, and Maya's got stage fright. Maya is terribly shy, and so she has to invent different ways to help. Maya has to hold cards, and she can't because her hands are shaking too bad, and so she has to invent a way to help her not drop the cards. And I liked that, but I wish we would have gotten more. Like, there's nothing in this book that would necessarily help a kid who is struggling with shyness or stage fright or anything like that. Like, she just kind of has to get over it and use this invention despite the fact that she's terrified and like her hands are shaking and she feels sick. And I wish that it just would have been done a little bit differently. So 3 stars on that. I hope my daughter lets us kind of DNF the series, but we'll see. So that's all the middle grade that we read for the first or second half of the month. Now let's get into the couple of books that I read for the Backlist Readathon. I did vlog the whole experience, so I will link that down below, and I won't talk about these books a whole lot. But I read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and this is my DNF, so I don't know that I can say I read it. I read about half of it, and it's just a very slow exploration of Eleanor Oliphant. She's a quirky character, and she kind of struggles with social interaction, and it just kind of follows her life. And I've heard a lot of people that say if you love A Man Called Ove, which, like, the Tom Hanks movie is throwing me off because it's Oscar or whatever his name is, but if you love that book, you might like this book. They're very similar, and that's kind of slow tone where you just figure out, like, get in the mind of this person. And yeah, she's not really a curmudgeon, but she's just a little different, and I just didn't like it. It was fun at first. Like, I liked her quirkiness, I liked her personality, but I got really bored, so DNF'd. Then I read Summer by the Tides by Denise Hunter, and I like this one, 4 stars. Like I said, I'll link the vlog down below so you can hear more of my thoughts. And yeah, it was one I just kind of threw in as a last one to meet some prompts because I DNF'd a lot in that vlog. And it was the best one I read, so it was awesome. Next is 3 books that I'm not going to talk a whole lot about because they are for a kind of secret vlog project that I hope is going to come out later this week, so stay tuned. But I read Legacy by Nora Roberts and gave that 3.5 stars. I read The Kitchen House by Kathleen Grissom and gave that 3.5 stars. And then I read Time Out, which is number 1 in the Time Out series by Emma Murray, and I gave it 3 stars, I think. Yeah, so those 3 books, stay tuned. My goal is Friday to have that video out, so you will see more of my thoughts on that. Okay, so next I'm going to get into the nonfiction that I read, and I think I said I read 3, but there's actually 4. So the first one that I read was The Call of the Wild and Free, Reclaiming Wonder in Your Child's Education by Ainsley Arment, and Ainsley is my daughter's name, and you don't hear that very often, so it's kind of fun. But I gave this one a 4 stars. This one is for homeschooling mamas, so it is about just reclaiming the wonder in your child's education, as it says. There's a wild and free kind of philosophy of homeschooling, and I was very misguided in what I thought that meant. And it didn't necessarily start as a homeschool philosophy. It more was like just allowing your kids to be kids, basically, and using different styles to teach however you wanted to. But so you could be like a Charlotte Mason, wild and free. You could be whatever kind of wild and free. Wild and free is basically just allowing your kids to kind of lead the way and let them be kids. And now it has kind of turned into something else, but I really loved it. The only parts that I don't necessarily agree with is it's a heavy emphasis on outside and nature and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But it said, it was talking a lot about like don't let your kids ever hear you say anything negative about the weather. And like, if it's freezing outside, go outside anyway and enjoy it. And I'm like, hard pass. I am an outdoor person. When it's spring and summer and fall, I'm not outside in the winter. Like, nope. And we have tried to do the like 1,000 hours outside. And if you haven't heard about that, I'll link it down below. But the goal is basically to spend 1,000 hours outside and throughout a year. And we get close for sure. But I'm not going to do some things outside, and I'm not going to be out there when it's freezing. So I agree that nature is important. I'm also not... I don't know, not to this extent, but otherwise I loved it. I love the idea of letting your kids be kids and letting them lead their education, and letting that flexibility of homeschool like run the show. Next, because I was like, I heard something about that book and wanted to read it. So I looked it up on Libby or whatever, and there was that book, and then there was also Wild and Free, a hope-filled anthem for the woman who feels she is both too much and never enough, by Jess Connolly and Haley Morgan. So I think I've read a body positivity book by Jess Connolly that I loved, and this one was just okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was just okay. I mean, it was on the better side of okay, but not life-changing for me. And then I read Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table by Louis Giglio, I think is how you say his name. And this one I heard about on Oshina's channel from Oshina's Gotta Read 'Em All. And this one is like a 2-hour audiobook, super fast. And it's just about like challenging the lies in your head and challenging things like, just don't let the enemy tear you down, guys. It's such an easy thing, but so dang hard. And so I gave it 4 stars. I wish it was longer. And he is he's like a Christian pastor that has a very conversational way of delivering things, very similar to like Andy Stanley, if you're into him. And yeah, it was great. I really liked it, and we'll definitely read more from him. And then I read Mama Bear Apologetics, Empowering Your Kids to Challenge Cultural Lies, by Hillary Morgan Ferrer, something like that. And y'all, I DNF'd this book. This was like all the rage in 2021 or whenever it came out. And I did not like it. I read like a quarter of it, and it's just way too conservative for me. And I thought the tone of the book was like mocking and aggressive. And so I didn't really even know what like the term apologetics means. It basically is just like explain or like justifying your faith, explaining your faith kind of things. And so it's about helping, like, I agree with the concept of like helping your kids separate what's culture and what's God, and what's like capital T truth versus what's cultural truth. Like, I love that idea, and I love the idea of like helping them to discern what's of this world and what's higher than this world and all that kind of stuff. But this was very, very conservative worldview, and very, like I said, almost mocking of like liberal social issues. And I like don't want to get this into a political thing, but I strongly disagreed with a lot of what she said. And I also think we can let our kids challenge their thoughts, and even challenge cultural lies. I agree with that, but like, we don't need to challenge every single person. We don't need to be holier than thou. We don't need to throw stones, you guys. Like, I just felt like this was not it for me. And maybe it circled around and got better, but like, I just felt like it was aggressive and mocking and holier than thou and not good. So DNF that. And then last is the book that I physically read, and it's still upstairs, and so I'm not going to go get it because my kids are up there trying to clean their rooms. And I mean, fingers crossed, but I'm not getting in. I'm not intervening because they're quiet, they're cleaning. Great. But it's Slightly Single by Wendy Markham. And this is number 1 in the Slightly series, maybe is what it's called. It's an old like early 2000s, I think, women's fiction series about this girl who has this boyfriend who is a actor. He's an actor, and so he is just a jerk. He doesn't treat her good. They live in New York City, and he is going away to somewhere like upstate for an acting camp for the summer, and like a project or whatever. And he says he like can't talk to her and all this kind of stuff. Well, she has a gay best friend, and meets one of his friends who she assumes is gay also, and so they start like dating, but she like is just completely authentically herself because she thinks like there's no chance of this ever being a thing, but he's not gay. And so there's a little bit of that going on, but it's definitely a women's fiction over a romance. But the friendship between her and Buckley or something is his name. I loved it. I loved getting to see that friendship. And this is a 3 or 4 book series, maybe 5, I don't know, following the same gal. And I really love those. I know a lot of people don't. There is a lot of diet culture, yucky stuff, early 2000s, like exactly sign of the times stuff going on in here, because she's a heavier set. I think maybe it says she's Italian. She's curvy, and her goal for the summer is to lose 40 pounds, start a bank account, and maybe stop smoking or something. And so there's really unhealthy eating habits and things talked about in this book, and that does not come full circle in this book. So I that's a huge complaint of mine. It may later in the series, but we'll see. So I gave it 3.5. I have the whole series on my shelf for some reason, and we'll continue it, but that's that. So that is everything I read in the first half of the month, or second half of the month. Gosh, April. It's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. Oh, I don't celebrate this with my kids because I loathe this holiday. I am like the most gullible person ever, and I loathe this holiday. So my kids don't even know it's a thing, and I'm hoping that stays the case forever. So let me know, do you celebrate April Fool's Day? Have you read any of these books? What was the best thing you read? Tell me all the things, and we'll chat below. See you later. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.